At a Pakowhai Community meeting last week, Hastings District Council CEO Nigel Bickle announced that on May 31st, all cyclone-affected communities would be informed of the risk categorisation to their property. Mr Bickle stressed that this assessment was preliminary and not a final decision.
Tonight we've had a meeting with the Pakowhai Community and specifically around the process that's been signalled by the government around putting communities into one of three categories, and that's scheduled to happen next week. So it's been an opportunity to talk with the Pakowhai Community about that process that'll kick off on the 31st of May.
Will that also, you've been talked about the Pakowhai Community, will that same information also be telegraphed to other affected areas?
Yeah, so for all the affected communities in Hawke's Bay, next week is a pretty big milestone because people in communities are going to be placed into one of three categories. Category 1, get on with your life and make the individual decisions free from being worried about any of these sort of processes. Category 2, which is this looks like a risky area, but we think that there are some ways that we can mitigate the risk. And Category 3, which says, this looks like a really high risk area and we're not certain there's any way of mitigating. So next week people are going to be informed what category they're in, and then that will be the basis for a series of conversations that happen with individuals and communities over the month of June. So it's been a great opportunity this evening just to talk with this community about that process, but that's a process that all of the affected communities in Hawke's Bay will be going through.
Now, you stressed during the meeting that that's just a preliminary, and there will be an opportunity, I guess, to have those individual conversations. I guess, can you just expand a little bit on how that process will work?
Yeah. So really good point. The process that's kicking off next week is informing communities around and individuals in those communities what categories they're in, and it's not a decision. It's a categorisation based on some preliminary risk assessments that have been informed by flood modelling information, insurance data and building data, and it will be the basis on which we then have a series of conversations with individuals in those communities over the month of June. Those conversations will happen in a way, they won't be a standard cookie cutter approach. It'll be based on what works for those communities, but people will be contacted individually in terms of being informed what category they're in, and then there'll be a series of ways of having those conversations, from community drop-ins, smaller meetings, but the communities and the community cyclone impacted community group that's been set up has been really helpful in giving us advice about what's the best way of doing that.
And how will people be contacted next week? You mentioned, I think, phone and email. And if they don't have, you have all the information of the affected peoples?
Yeah, I think we've got a high level of confidence now that we have, and through the help of communities, managed to find the contact details for everyone that's been impacted, red or yellow stickered, and so confident that we have the contact details, and predominantly it will be by way of email, but also may well be some phone calls and a call centre that can take inquiries from people that are in those impacted categories.
So just a couple more quick questions. You mentioned just some round numbers of how many people or how many areas, how many properties were yellow or red stickered. Can you just telegraph that again?
Yeah, so and I'll talk for Hastings and those numbers that I know. There are around 900 yellow and red stickered properties across multiple communities.